Welcome into College Football Conference Previews, ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference here. We're talking the coastal side of things, talking about UNC, Miami, Pitt, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, Virginia, and Duke here. Talking about the ACC, one side of the division is Clemson, and seems like everybody else going at their heels. Robbie, this side of the division, the coastal, I feel like it's up for grabs. Anybody can win it. What are your thoughts here and any changes the viewers need to watch about, talking about coaches, players? What are you thinking here in the coastal, Robbie?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Drew. It's a competitive division for sure. I mean, odds makers established North Carolina and Miami of Florida as your two front runners. But the separation between them and the rest of the group, is not that big whatsoever. Let's start because there's only one meaningful coaching change here, much like the Atlantic Division that we pointed out in our preview there, Drew. It's a head coach taking over a coordinator role. Manny Diaz for Miami lost both of his defensive coordinators in the offseason and has decided to take over the defense himself. It's a position he's very used to throughout his career. He's been a defensive coordinator. He's been a game day play caller. He's going to take over the play calling assignment here for this team. Some reports out of the spring here say that Miami's defense kind of has their edge back with Manny Diaz leading the troops. So we know him as a very successful defensive coordinator. Can he handle both chores at once? We'll see. According to head coach Diaz himself, he already was involved with the defense since he during his tenure at Miami. So certainly it won't be new to him to have full hands-on with this particular defense. Problem for him may be some of the inexperience that lies in with Miami, but that's the only real coaching change to talk about. Again, a very stable division where coaches, offensive coordinators, and defensive coordinators are concerned. Impact transfers here. North Carolina lost both of their running backs to the NFL, and Javonte Williams and Michael Carter were a tremendous pair. They pick up running back Ty Chandler from Tennessee, a guy who ranks fifth all-time at Tennessee in all-purpose yardage. That's rushing yards, pass receiving yards, and kick return yards. So a very special player there. Tennessee was raided by the transfer portal, and North Carolina got their hands on one of the better ones. And for Miami of Florida, real quick, as far as impact transfers are concerned, they got three right out of the gate here from the transfer portal. Two top 25 guys on the defensive side. One big-time wide receiver, Charleston Rambo from Oklahoma. So I think North Carolina and UNC probably filled voids the best and got the most of the transfer portal here as far as Coastal Division is concerned.
And when we're talking about the favorite in the Coastal Division, it kind of goes towards, we just saw the graphic there, North Carolina and the University of Miami, plus 130 and plus 135 respectively here. So it's almost like co-favorites here. And I think the odds makers are going ahead and seeing, the game is at North Carolina. When Miami faces North Carolina here, it's on October 16th. But one thing to note here, Robbie, Miami, you just talked about Diaz and company. They are off of a bye week in the offensive coordinator position there. Gus Malzahn, disciple. We know how that just kind of looking forward, the offense is going to likely have some new plays there for the UNC defense to look at. So do you think it's worth a bet here on either of these two teams at plus 130 or plus 135 to win the division? Or would you look elsewhere to maybe a middle of the pack team in the Coastal Division?
Well, I think if you like underdogs, this is probably one division where you could play one and feel fairly good about your bet. You're not reaching if you play Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, any of those teams, even UVA. You certainly have a chance. I would think that these two, though, are the established favorites for a reason, because up and down the 22-man roster that starts and the two deep rosters, they are the deepest ball clubs here. There's flaws in all of these teams, but the least amount of flaws lie with North Carolina and Miami of Florida. And, of course, while we talk about all quarterbacks coming back, the two premier quarterbacks in this division are on those two teams, Sam Howell and De'Ara King. You can't really separate those two guys' talent with a piece of paper. So they're very, very comparable. They're top of the list as far as this division is concerned. I would think as you mentioned, Drew, I'll point it out again. The reason why UNC is the slight favorite is they get the home game against Miami. But both teams' divisional schedule is fairly, pretty well made, tailored for success. So we'll see. But I could not fault anybody from taking a shot on any of the other teams on the future board there because and one injury makes a huge difference, right? We're doing this on paper in July, assuming that the talent we're looking at now, even on October 16th when they play each other, will Howell and King be the quarterbacks or will one be hurt? On paper here in July, it looks like they should be the favorites.
Yeah, Robbie, and talk about quarterback. I mean, the whole division, really good quarterbacks here, good coaches as well. And talking about, maybe a team to fade, Robbie. And this is kind of a tough question in this division just because I feel like everybody's, kind of clustered here, Robbie. I really do feel like every team, top to bottom, we're looking at the odds. You go top at North Carolina plus 130, bottom Duke at plus 7,500 here, Robbie. I feel that any team can win it. And so talking about maybe a team to fade could be a little tough because those three teams at the bottom, Virginia plus 1,200, Georgia Tech plus 3,500, Duke plus 7,500 here. I mean, you're getting some big plus prices here. But those three bottom teams, Robbie, I mean, we're talking about UVA, Bronco Mendenhall. He's been recruiting well there in Charlottesville. He's got some talent on that roster. We get Jeff Collins in his third year recruiting in the ATL. I kind of like that profile of the Yellow Jackets playing a lot better this season. And then you talk about Duke, David Cutcliffe, possibly the most underrated coach in all of college football. I don't want to bet against Duke week in, week out. I don't think they have a season like they just had in 2020, hurt by the coronavirus. So I think Duke is going to bounce back as well. This is a tough division for me, Robbie, to pick a team to fade. Do you have a team here circled in the Coastal Division that you're looking to fade, Robbie?
Well, we have to pick one for purposes of the show, right? And I agree with you, Drew. There's reasons to like everybody. But if I had to pick one, when I went through it pretty thoroughly here, I would pick Duke as the team to fade. Couple of reasons why. The other six teams do have their starting quarterback back. For Duke, it's Gunnar Holmberg, a guy who had some plays but wasn't the starter for Duke. So you got a starting quarterback that's fairly new, almost brand new to Duke here. The defensive line is depleted. You get a couple of guys, Duke is not like the others, or most of the others, where they can just reload talent. They lost Victor Dimukeji and Chris Rumpf, two all-ACC defensive ends, and the sack totals were up for this team. Those two guys are gone. That defensive line is depleted. You're talking about three starters across that line being redshirt freshmen or sophomores. That doesn't keep up with the increase in talent at Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, all these teams that are getting better. Duke kind of needs to have these guys in their system for 2-3 years so David Cutcliffe can mold them. Pair of freshman offensive tackles here. That's not going to be good against pass rushes in the ACC. Running game wasn't great, 3.6 yards per carry last year. And the wide receiving core, compared to the rest of these teams, is pretty average. So while we love David Cutcliffe and his ability to grow talent, I think he's got a young team, and most of Duke's players stick around the full 4 years. I think if you see this group 2-3 years from now, they'll be moving up the ladder here. But for this year, I just think the other team's increase in talent outperforms what Duke's is. So I would choose them as the team to fade if I needed one.
All right, Robbie, anything else you want to throw out here in conclusion of the ACC conference before we shut this down?
Well, let's take a quick look at Pittsburgh, Drew, because we mentioned a bunch of teams, right? And I love Georgia Tech. It came down to Pittsburgh or Georgia Tech, which mid-pack team I like the best. And I wound up on Pittsburgh for a couple of quick reasons here. One, Kenny Pickett. I really am a fan of Kenny Pickett, and he's got a really explosive wide receiving core this year. So we look for them to go downfield. They have to upgrade that running game. It hasn't been what it should be under Pat Narduzzi. Remember, he came from Michigan State. He's a hard-nosed guy. They should run the ball better this year because the offensive line is better. This is a team, by the way, that the last 2 years has recorded 97 quarterback sacks. Now, they lose their top two defensive ends as well, but they replenish better than Duke does, and they should be, with the system and the talent in the system, they should be okay there. I like the way they can get after the quarterback. Last year, they were 5-5-1 against the spread, And this year, they project to be even better with so many players coming back. And they're not priced that differently, Drew. When you go through their numbers last year, closing numbers, point spread, and what they're projected to lay this year, odds makers almost view them as the same team. I view them as better. So I'd probably look at Pittsburgh as a mid-pack team we can cash in on week-to-week basis ATS.
Yeah, near plus 1,000 there. 10 times your money at William Hill Sportsbook. So good stuff there, Robbie, breaking down the ACC conference. Make sure to check Rob Veno out, WagerTalk.com. Check out SportsMemo.com as well for free betting advice and the odds screen at WagerTalk. One of the best out there, if not the best free odds screen available. For Robbie Veno, I am Drew Martin. We will be back on the WagerTalk YouTube channel with more college football conference breakdowns. Stay tuned. Best of luck with your bets until then, guys.